Man, we got lots to talk about, Lev. Lots to talk about on this episode of the Wildcast podcast. Arizona versus Cincinnati. We'll be answering some mailbag questions later on in the podcast as well. And there's a new naming rights agreement with Arizona and Casino del Sol, an enterprise of Pascua Yaqui tribe. I feel like that's where we should start this podcast, Lev.
Yep.
Is big news on Monday that the University of Arizona has reached a naming rights agreement with Casino del Sol, 20 years, $60 million, which is the largest valuation in the Big 12, total valuation. Now, as far as per year, ASU slightly above Arizona. So the per year average, ASU has the Wildcats beat. But if we're talking about just simply total amount, Arizona, number one in the Big 12, one of the top in collegiate athletics, period. And it kind of feels like, Lev, like a quarterback contract. Like, I feel like this is only going to like set the bar for other naming rights. Like, we're going to be sitting here talking about like, oh yeah, Arizona, number one in the Big 12. And then Texas Tech, because their deal with AT&T is up next year. They've had a naming rights deal with AT&T since 2006. And that 20-year agreement is about to end. I would imagine Texas Tech and the boatload of money that they have, they're probably going to have a massive naming rights deal for their stadium. But yeah, I think this is just like the benchmark. This is like the standard. And I would only imagine that, teams, when they, follow suit, they're probably going to have bigger deals. But for now, Arizona, top dog with $60 million coming their way over the next 20 years, $3 million a year from Casino del Sol. There's still lots to unpack here from Desiree Reed-Francois' press conference. But, man, what a historic day for Arizona athletics and Arizona Stadium, which is now Casino del Sol Stadium. And that is in effect right now. So Saturday's home finale, senior day, Lev, we got to get used to it, man. Like, starting now, we got to say Casino del Sol Stadium. It's gonna take a little bit to get used to, but man, what it's crazy.
So if you're watching the video version of this, you may notice that it's a little darker than usual when we record the podcast, and that is because of the breaking news that we were dealing with earlier today. You did a really good job in your story, Justin, of like showing the amounts that other schools have gotten with their deals. But you know what I would compare this to? I would compare it to what Arizona got from it being called Arizona Stadium, which was absolutely nothing, right? So this is $3 million more, right? $3 million more per year than Arizona was getting before. And to me, this is long overdue. This is something that had to be done. And credit to Desiree Reed-Francois and her team for getting it across the finish line. This is something I've been asking about over the course of 3 different administrations, and it was always like, it's got to be the right thing. It's got to be the right time, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Desiree got it done. And like I said, she deserves a lot of credit for that. I was on radio earlier today with our good friend, Steve Rivera. And I don't know if maybe it was there or maybe I was talking to our colleague, Tim Steller. Anyway, I made this point about this whole thing. This is not necessarily something that Desiree wanted to do. Like, she didn't come in here and she wasn't like, oh, Arizona Stadium, what a lame name. Like, we got to change that. This is something that she needed to do.
Yeah.
Right. That the school needed to do. And the reason is running an athletic department is expensive.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things right now, it is expensive. There are costs beyond our wildest imagination, like things that we would never have conceived of 5 or 10 years ago, including, but not limited to, $20.5 million in revenue sharing, right? This puts at least something of a dent in that, in addition to all the other costs that Arizona and every other school are dealing with.
And, it's equipment, coaching salaries, revenue share. Like, you got to pay your athletes, right? And I think coaching salaries is a big one. I mean, when you look at what Arizona's dealing with right now, Arizona football, Danny Gonzalez, I mean, Broyles Award, semifinalists, finalists. I mean, if we're talking about like assistant coaches, I mean, Danny Gonzalez has done an exceptional job. I mean, one of the best in college football right now. I mean, look at that turnaround on that defense. And then Seth Dagey, hey, look at Arizona's actually scoring more than 30 points a game and doing it consistently, which was not a thing last year. I mean, they only scored more than 30 points once last year. And then it was the struggle bus the rest of the way. Both coordinators have done excellent jobs. And you know what? There's probably other programs that are like, well, hey, do you want to come be our coordinator? We'll give you way more money. Or do you want to be a head coach at a lower level school? We'll give you a bunch of money. So I just think that it helps Arizona's coaches stay. There's more continuity, and then you're constantly improving the facilities, and you're constantly renovating stuff. Desiree Reed-Francois said that they're going to take a feasibility survey, and they're going to reach out to Arizona fans and see what are the necessary upgrades that they need to make at Arizona Stadium, whether it's lighting, video boards, all of that. Like, they want to make sure that Arizona Stadium is improving, and they want to make sure that their athletic facilities are also kind of up to snuff and up to par with some of the others in college athletics. And, like you said, Lev, Desiree is like, it's expensive to run a college program. It's definitely expensive when you're trying to be competitive and win. And that's exactly what Arizona is trying to do right now. And I mean, and it's not just like Desiree told me leading up to the big day on Monday. She said, this isn't just a transaction. Like, it's not just Casino del Sol is just going to have their name on the stadium and boom, like that's it. Like, Casino del Sol said, like, we're going to work with Arizona Athletics to bring concerts, to make it really like an entertainment venue. And I think it's really commendable that Arizona Athletics is doing whatever they can to make sure that they draw people to Arizona Stadium. It's not just rolling the football out and just say, hey, please come. They want to make sure that everyone is having a great experience, and they want to add that entertainment value to it. And I think that's important in today's college athletics landscape.
Yeah, Casino del Sol is not a small business, but it is a local business.
Yep.
Right? There is also a connection to the Native American community that is being furthered and strengthened by this deal happening. Like, I know there are some people out there for sure, Justin, who feel like Arizona has sold its soul, no pun intended, right? but this is, to me, this is way better than if they had done this deal with some random bank or credit union that really had no like strong affiliation or ties to the area, right? Like, this is a unique name that will make Arizona the stadium formerly known as Arizona Stadium, now known as Casino del Sol Stadium. It'll make it stand out.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of bringing concerts is fabulous. Like, I mean, how many events, like really true events, are there per year at the stadium right now? Like 8, 9?
Home games, Arizona Bowl, and graduation.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it. They should, if they can pull it off, it would be awesome to bring in some concerts or whatever to make better use of that facility. I know Desiree Reed-Francois has talked about that. She's talked about doing it with McKale Center as well. McKale Center was a topic of conversation today. Yeah. She has been steadfast. I've asked her about this before. She's very consistent about it. The name McKale Center is not going anywhere. She is not going to change the name of the basketball venue. Now, are there workarounds for that? And I would say, yes, there probably are, right? McKale Center, presented by Raytheon or Mr. Car Wash or whatever the case might be, EG's. There are ways that you can kind of manipulate it a little bit where you're not taking away that McKale Center brand, which is super strong and has I think a pretty powerful meaning for a lot of people. I also think about our former colleague, Brett Farah, who had this great idea. He was like, why not name the entire athletic footprint McKale Center, right? So that everything is like at McKale Center,
okay.
right? So you could Casino del Sol stadium at McHale Center. Fabulous idea.
I like that.
Brett had a lot of good ideas.
I like that.
Very smart. He's very smart.
I like that. He actually, kind of peeling back the curtain here, he saved my ass for print. We were able to make one minor correction. I forgot FBC Mortgage rebranded to Acrisure. So,
okay.
Yeah, so last year, Arizona played at FBC Mortgage Stadium. It wasn't Acrisure. And then, like, in the last year, they changed it to Acrisure Bounce House.
Oh,
yeah.
You're talking about a UCF. Okay.
UCF, yeah. So, I mean, the deal was still the same, but it was like, Brett was like, it's still the same. Like, you're not wrong, but, like, I don't want anybody to be like, well, actually, but still, like, it's still one of the naming rights deals in the Big 12. And that's what makes this so unique, Lev. It's the only casino in the Big 12. Now, we've seen like casinos partner with other venues like San Diego State's basketball arena, the Viejas Arena. There's several, naming rights or casinos that have naming rights deals, but this is truly one of a kind for Arizona. And it's local, like you said. So it's big. Now, what is the nickname for this? They call it the Old Gray Lady. Do we call it the slot machine?
The soul?
The dealer's den? The soul?
We gotta workshop this one.
Yeah.
This might be a one for our good friend Chat GPT. Maybe in the next podcast later in the week we'll workshop some of those.
It's funny because I actually Googled this earlier. Already did it. The Jackpot Dome, the Winning House, the High Roller House, the Chip House, but I feel like you could call High Corbett that. The Desert Jackpot, the Soul Palace. So ChatGPT wasn't on its A game for this, but
I feel like it needs to be like one word, just something,
The soul, the sun. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, I think this is awesome, man. Good for Arizona athletics. And and then there'll also be field signage as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Pasquayaki Tribe and Casino del Sol, they'll have their logos on the field. And then Desiree also said potential jersey patches down the road.
Yeah, I think she said that was pending NCAA level approval.
Okay.
But which I'm sure that it will be approved. And I would be shocked if there weren't some advertisements on the jerseys next year, which again, some people are going to object, right? Like you are disrupting or ruining the sanctity of the beautiful traditional college football jerseys. But hey, man, you gotta come up with ways to make money. It's just the reality of the situation, and it all feels a little bit icky, right? But you got to do what you got to do. Like, I guess my question I would ask of the fans is, do you want to win or not?
Yeah.
And if you want to win, you got to pay the literal price that it takes.
You got to adapt.
Yep.
You got to evolve. All right. And speaking of Casino del Sol, aka Casino of the Sun, man, the sun is going to be out this week once again. Maybe, right? You said it was going to rain on Saturday.
Maybe, yeah. But 11 a.m. kickoff.
Another one
against the Baylor Bears.
Another early one.
What have we done? What have we done to deserve this?
I don't know, man. Pac-12 after dark to Big 12 after brunch, and we got another taste of Big 12 after brunch. We're really more so Big 12 after breakfast for the folks watching in Arizona because it was Mountain Time. But man, what a win for Arizona over Cincinnati, man. Going on the road, beating a top 25 team and a legitimate top 25 team. Like Cincinnati is a really good team. They've got weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But, man, Arizona did a nice job of really countering all the punches that Cincinnati threw. And they did that game again. They did the same exact thing essentially against Kansas, where Kansas got going in that first quarter, second quarter a little bit, and then Arizona just kind of figured them out. And, Danny Gonzalez, I remember he said this was it last year or maybe earlier this year? I think maybe when we were talking about like the tablets or something like that. And he was just talking about like, good coaches, they can always make adjustments on the fly in game. Those are always the sign of a good coach. If they can see all the stuff that's happening in the game and they can make all the proper adjustments, maybe they don't need all the technology and all that, that is good coaching. And I got to give a ton of props to Danny Gonzalez, because this defense, they took those punches by Cincinnati. I mean, they had 140 rushing yards, Lev. I mean,
on 8 carries. On 8 carries.
On 8 carries.
I
was like, man, they're going to run up and down Arizona's throats this game. And then 50 yards the rest of the way, essentially. So
I thought as that was all happening, like, they're screwed. Like, this is going to be like the BYU game, right?
Yep.
They're just not going to be able to stop the run. And they didn't have Tia Savea for this game. Trey Smith is out for the season. Myron Robinson got hurt during the game. Max Harris dressed but did not play.
Yeah.
Those are 4 pretty important guys, right? Myron was very productive when he was in there. And they somehow found a way. I noted what I thought were some of the adjustments that they made along the path. One was, it seemed like they did less of the stunting and twisting that they usually do after that opening burst. And, it's very effective in terms of like confusing offensive linemen, but what can happen, right? Sometimes you can jump right out of a gap where a running play goes, right? Like you can be in there and then you're going around to the side and all of a sudden you're leaving a lane wide open. So that was one thing I noticed. Another was when Riley Wilson came in the game and started playing more, all of a sudden, like, the cutback lanes seemed to be gone. Like, he did a really good job of cutting those off, chasing those down. And then just, the safeties.
Yeah.
Dalton and Traden Stukes, Genesis Smith, just coming up and providing run support.
Yeah.
Which given how undersized they are, the structure of the defense, how banged up they are, those guys are just going to have to get their noses dirty, and they don't mind doing it.
Yeah. And I think, one thing that was better in comparison to like the tough losses, tackling is so much better. Like, Genesis Smith had a really nice open field tackle kind of near the red zone when Cincinnati was driving. And that wasn't the case in those tough losses. Like, I go back to that Houston game where Amari Thomas had a long touchdown and he broke tackles not once, but twice on Traden Stukes and Dalton Johnson. And both of those guys are really good tacklers for Arizona. So I think those guys have gotten a lot better as far as making sure that as soon as they make contact, that guy is going to the ground. And then, winning the turnover battle, 20 turnovers for this Arizona team this year. And they've got 14 takeaways, or 14 interceptions, which is tied for the most with BYU in the Big 12. I mean, these guys are ball hawks, and they know how to, get stops and create takeaways. I mean, a minute into that game, Arizona had a 7-0 lead, and they started the game on defense. Like, that was one of the most impressive starts I've seen from an Arizona team. And they set the tone, and then Cincinnati came back. And that's the one thing about Arizona that I really appreciate is that, they can start fast. And then when teams get going, it's not this avalanche like we saw last year. Like, there were moments where Arizona got off to a decent start. Like, I remember that TCU game where they fought back, and that first quarter, that first half, like, they were very competitive. And then like a couple things just went against Arizona, and then it just avalanched, and Arizona could never find their footing. This Arizona team, just because they're down, they are never out. Like, I will never, ever count out this Arizona team, even if they're down by 2 possessions, because they just have a lot of grit and a lot of fight, and they continue to show that day in and day, or week in and week out against some really tough opponents. And the turnaround of this team is truly remarkable. And I think a big part of that is the defense, despite the injuries. I mean, injuries happen all the time in football, but despite the injuries with this Arizona team, they seem to always have an answer for everything.
This is a much more mentally tough team than last year's team.
Yeah, a good point.
There's way more connectivity, way more character, way more determination, fortitude, grit, whatever you want to call it. They seem unfazed by any given situation. I think that all started with, Brent Brennan just kind of setting the tone in the offseason for what they wanted. And he mentioned this today, reiterated this today, like, toughness, do you love football, and do you want to be here? Right? And if you want to be here, see you later. And that might seem harsh, but he really wanted a team that had a greater sense of togetherness, everyone rowing in the same direction. And I think it's in those moments of adversity and stress during a game where those character traits come out.
Yep.
Right. When you're mentally weak, you tend to fall apart in those situations. This team is together. They're mentally tough. And then that starts at the top. That starts with the head coach and the culture that he establishes. I mean, Brent, I'm sure, would acknowledge that he did not do a good enough job last year of establishing the culture of what they wanted to be. Like, they mentioned red line like a little bit. They did not emphasize it nearly as much as they have this year, where it is like all they talk about sometimes. But they're actually living up to it too, which it's been super impactful to see that in these close games, tough games, what I call coin flip games. Like, any number, you got to do a lot of little things right to win those games, and I think one of them is don't panic.
Yeah. And I think that if there was any time to display red line, it's when you already got to bowl eligibility. I mean, you won in a very emotional game. You're on the road playing against a team that is expected to beat you. Like, it was typical Arizona fashion to lose that kind of game. And I ain't gonna lie to you, Lev. I went into Nippert Stadium like, I think they're going to be competitive, but man, this is a really tough game. We'll see.
I was very surprised. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I went and looked at all of those games that fit this kind of category, right? The kind of mid to late November games where there was no real stakes. Like, it wasn't like it was before. It was a road game. Like, something had been clinched or something significant was coming up. And there were 6 such games during my time on the beat from 2016 to 2024. And the average margin of defeat in those games against Oregon State, Oregon, Washington State, another one against Oregon, Washington State, and TCU, the average margin was 26.8 points.
Boy.
Like, a lot.
That's gross.
One of those games was 69-28.
Nice.
Up in Pullman. Yes, not very nice if you're an Arizona Wildcat. So that, again, that tells me a lot, right? There was no obvious motivation for this game, yet they were totally buttoned up, totally focused, and totally ready to take it to the Bearcats.
No doubt, man. And then in the process, like, we talk about the defense, and rightfully so, because of what they did in the second half was impressive. But man, offense had a lot of big time moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chris Hudson was just an absolute baller. I didn't realize this until you pointed it out, but 7 of his 8 catches resulted in first downs. I mean, that guy was a playmaker. And I mean, that 3rd and 19 conversion where he picked up 25 yards, that play right there, to me, I thought that was the play that really turned things around for Arizona, because if they don't get that, there's a possibility they go into the halftime break down 21-10. And in my opinion, that's kind of a completely different ball game at that point. But instead, they pick it up, they go down the field, they kick a field goal, they go down. Now they're only down 14-13. And then you feel good.
It was 14-10. It could have, right?
Yeah. And then they
made it 14
right before halftime.
After the half, yeah.
Yeah. So it was 14-13 going to halftime break, which is much different than 21-10. And then Kedrick Reesano capping that 99-yard drive with that 50-yard touchdown run, which was preceded by Chris Hunter making a very impressive one-handed catch near the sideline. It was great to see him back healthy and getting going. And it was just really good complimentary football all around for Arizona. Was it perfect? No. And that says a lot. The fact that Michael Salgado Medina missed 2 field goals, one of them got blocked, and Arizona had moments where you're like, oh, man, I don't know. And yet they found a way to prevail and win. It wasn't pretty at times, but yet they just figured it out. And I thought the offense was fantastic. Chris Hudson was great. And then really the big moment of the day for the offensive side of the ball, outside of Chris Hudson going nuts, was Noah Fafita setting the career passing touchdowns record, passing Nick Foles, Willie Tuitama. Now he's got 68 touchdown passes and counting, and it's only going to grow. And now he's just under 800 yards for becoming Arizona's all-time passing yards leader. So when it's all said and done, when Noah Fifita is having his senior day next year at Casino del Sol Stadium, then he's going to be considered statistically the greatest quarterback of all time in Arizona history. And it's good stuff.
Yeah, just to clarify, they were down 14-7, and they made a field goal at the end of the half.
Oh, that's
14-10.
14-10.
And then they scored the first possession after another field goal to make
Yes.
it 14-13. So it could have been 21-7.
Yeah.
Right? If things had gone differently in that sequence right there. And it was 3rd and 19.
Yeah.
And Noah rolled to the right, and he's really good at those plays, those kind of improvisational off-platform type of plays. I think we've joked about him learning that from Jaden DeLora, who's also really good at those. Like if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm just like, guys, do not let Noah escape to the side.
Yeah,
because he will kill you if he does that. I thought he was super efficient in that game. Wasn't quite as accurate as the Houston game, but it reminded me of it just in the way that he played and how clutch he was. On the 3rd down throws, there was a 4th down throw to Hudson also. Like very, very on point. Good job by the offensive line too, by the way. Even losing Tristan Bounds in the second half. I think they had a 22% pressure rate in that game, which is way better than in any recent game. It was 22.2%. So that makes a difference too. You know, no quarterback likes being pressured. He was able to size up the defense, make some really good throws, and then throw the one to Gio Richardson for the record breaker. I thought that was just a great design by Seth Dagey. And an example of he probably knew like they are going to, they will do man coverage on this particular down or this particular situation X% of the time, right? So I'm going to call this crossing route from the slot, which if they're playing zone doesn't necessarily work, but if they were playing man, Gio was able to pull away. That was probably the easiest throw that Noah had all day, honestly. Mm-hmm. He just laid that one in there perfectly.
Yeah.
And then the celebration was on.
I was really hoping the touchdown pass would go to Chris Hudson for one reason and one reason only. He wears number 4. And he said, and Noah Fifita said after the game, like, whenever you need to make or whenever 4 needs to make a play, he makes it. And I'm like, I feel like you could have grabbed that statement from the previous 2 years.
Yeah. He threw that one ball like way too high out the back of the end zone. And I'm like, was he thinking that was T-Mac? Because maybe only T-Mac could have made that play. T-Mac, who, by the way, had the best game of his career this past Sunday.
Yeah.
Where are you at, Todd McShay? Huh? Where are you at?
Man,
bro.
T-Mac is 6th in the NFL in receiving yards this year.
Yeah. How's that working out? Pretty well, right?
Didn't he say, I don't see it?
He lowered him to 50th on his big board.
Man.
50th. Questioned his work ethic. I mean, there were just all sorts of weird accusations. I don't know. I didn't get any of that. We've been over it a million times, but good for T-Mac. Good for the new number 4, Chris Hudson, who was one of many. I don't know if he's going to participate in the senior day events, but they've got a lot of guys on this team. There will be a good bit of turnover. Hopefully not as much turnover as last year, right?
Yeah.
Didn't Brent say that it was like 62 players at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Who ended up being new. So hopefully we're not looking at something like that, especially for your sake, Justin, for your sanity.
Thank God for one transfer portal window. Thank God for
January, right?
And January. Yep. So, by the way, T-Mac, not bad for a guy who doesn't watch film, allegedly. All right, Lev, let's get to the mailbag. Lots of questions to dive into.
Yeah. All right. So this one comes from Retro RV, and we've kind of addressed this. And again, this was sent before the game, but I wanted to read it anyway, since he was nice enough to send in the question. He said, KU only rushed 40 times for 170 yards on UA. Now with 2 defensive starters out, will Cincy rush more? And if so, what should Gonzalez do to stop it? Well, we kind of know what happened. They certainly came out like a house of fire on the ground, extremely effective. And then Danny made some critical adjustments.
Yeah.
And if I were a Cincinnati fan, I'd be kind of mad at my coaching staff for not running more than they did, even though Arizona was kind of shutting it down a little bit. They ended up with 29 total carries. And I think they had 1 sack. So 28 rushing plays, probably not enough. I would have stuck with it, but offense coordinators, they have egos and they go into a game with this big sheet. They want to run all these plays and stuff. Sometimes the simple approach is the best approach.
No doubt.
Yeah. Okay. So this next one is much more big picture, and it comes from Billy Webb Ellis. Sent us some good questions. What's been the biggest difference between last year and this year? New coordinators, fewer injuries, something else. And he also asks for thoughts on the class Arizona baseball just signed. I will let you answer the football question, and then I'll handle the baseball.
I think the biggest difference is just the roster 21 through 85 is so much better than last year. And Arizona dealt with a bunch of injuries last year, and you really saw that they had no depth. Now, the kind of the fortunate thing about what happened last year, Lev, was that Traydon Stukes was able to come back because of his injury. We're kind of seeing the same thing right now with Trey Smith. But those guys who got the game reps, like that was their first time getting collegiate experience. And they got that and improved on that. Like Matthew Lotto, I give that guy a lot of credit, man. Like he was kind of bad as a true freshman, but he's also a true freshman, right? I think in the little bits that we've seen Matthew Lotto play in place of Tristan Bounds, we saw him play for Ty Buchanan as well. He made some key blocks in the run game against Kansas. Matthew Lotto looks like, a decent tackle and a guy that Arizona can work with moving forward. And so I just think that the overall depth of this year's team is so much better. And I think that they have the right coaches in place. Danny Gonzalez is a great defensive coordinator. Him just coaching linebackers, coach, like I bet you if Brent Brennan had a time machine, he would go back and be like, okay, Danny, you're the defensive coordinator. Dwayne, help out the DBs. Man, imagine how that would look last year, right? Seth Dagey, imagine him with T-Mac and all those other guys last year. So I just think that Seth Dagey is the right coach. Danny Gonzalez is the right coach. Craig Nivar, very detail-oriented guy. I know special teams have had their fair share of issues this year, but Craig Nivar is a hell of a coach. And so I just think that the coach is in the right place. They've done a great job of evaluating talent, especially, guys that were just kind of unknowns, like the group of 5 FCS guys. Who thought that Deshaun McKnight would be this good? Who thought that Max Harris would be this good? Right? Like
I did not realize this until I saw someone point it out. Deshaun McKnight has 10 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
This year.
He's like one of the best in
tackle
for interior defensive linemen. He's one of the best in college football.
That's really good. They hit on a bunch of those guys. Credit to Geiska Crowley and Fletcher Kelly, the personnel gurus. I think better depth, better coaching, and like we talked about earlier, just a better culture. More unified.
It's Brent's team. It's not just the leftovers of the Alamo Bowl team. It's actually Brent Brennan's team. And he talked about it today. Like the guys who came here, they chose this coaching staff. And the guys who stayed here, they chose this coaching staff. Overall, culture is better.
Yes. And real quickly on the baseball signing class, I think pretty good. They were ranked 23rd in the nation by Perfect Game. There was a couple little discrepancies between like the players that Perfect Game had listed and who actually ended up signing with Arizona. They also don't count junior college players, and Arizona always has a handful of those. But they signed some really promising position players, including you got to keep an eye on this guy, Aiden Diome of Roseville, California. He's the top guy in the class. He had a really good summer. I think he's a third baseman. That's a name to keep an eye on. 2 catchers who are local, including Francisco Rivero Jr., who's got a super interesting story. He's up at Canyon del Oro. I'll be interested to see if he really blows up his senior year, whether he makes it down here. But I think in general that Arizona has recruited better than anyone thought possible when Chip Hale got the job. Look, no one on God's green earth recruits better than his predecessor, right? Jay Johnson is like an absolute maniac when it comes to recruiting. So no one is going to match him. But Chip brought in Trick Couch, who has a lot of experience in the SEC. He knows everybody everywhere as his kind of recruiting guru. And they've done a very good job, I think, of bringing in and then developing young players.
Heck, developing young players. Best example, Mason White, right?
That's sure, of course.
That's the biggest one that I can think of because nobody was really giving him a lot of love coming out of South Point, and Arizona took a chance on him.
Nope. I mean, this when you talk about like examining a recruiting class, except maybe men's basketball is a little different because a lot of like the top tier guys are going to play right away. The way to judge it is 2 to 3 years down the line. Are those players getting better? Are they becoming starters? And are they still here?
Yeah.
Right? Like we get all excited about these signing classes and then everyone ends up transferring. That has really not been the case very much with Chip. Like guys like playing for him and they see that he's sending people to the pros. So they want to be a part of that. All right. I got two more from X and then I have one on email. This is from someone called Nothing to See Here at Pitcher Circle. It says rankings can be a bit overrated, especially in the bottom 5. What I find more intriguing is potential bowl matchups with teams that have similar records. Who would you want UA matched up against in a bowl game? And then he says, the first one's going to break your brain. Washington, Texas, New Mexico, UNLV. What do you think, Justin?
Oh, man, Washington would be juicy. I would love that. So what bowl game would that be?
I don't know. I don't know how that would work because they're also subject to Pac-12 affiliations, right?
Yeah.
The Huskies, who are, of course, coached by Jed Fish, former Arizona coach. So I don't know how that would work. I know there was like a Big 12 versus Big 12 matchup last year at the Alamo Bowl with Colorado against BYU.
Yeah.
So something weird like that could happen. We've speculated, I think, about SMU being a potential opponent in the Sun Bowl.
That's the one I want.
That would be really good, right? I mean, like both kind of within driving distance-ish, up and coming program. We're pro Sun Bowl on this podcast for many reasons, especially not having to get on a plane.
Yeah.
And the timing of it. I saw the LA Bowl, which would be, I think, a Mountain West opponent, right?
Yeah.
That's on December 13th.
Yeah. Big basketball game going on that day too.
Yeah. I don't think Brent Brennan wants that because he wants more practices. Like he wants as many practices for the young guys as possible. So those bowls that are later in the calendar, I think would line up better as far as he's concerned.
Yeah. And you get healthier too. There are some guys banged up that I'm sure could use the extra couple weeks to get right and play maybe their last game at Arizona.
All right, one more from X, and this is from our friend Brett Barry. It says Lev tweeted how hard it can be to do top 25 votes. 20 teams are 7-3. So this is good stuff here. Do you think covering Arizona makes consideration of voting for them harder as a voter? More likely to vote as you see them daily, or any sense of erring on the side of not voting for Arizona to avoid bias?
So, Lev, before you answer that, my perspective on this is like you just always have to be fair no matter what. And I vote on the Big 12 weekly awards. And last week, I did not vote for Quincy Craig to win Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. Just because, listen, he had 2 big-time touchdowns. One of them was to tie Noah Fafita, or have Noah Fafita tie Willie Tuitama and Nick Foles for passing touchdowns. And the other one was to win the game. So, like, he had 2 really big-time touchdowns, but he only had 5 carries. I looked at the volume of some of the other guys, and it was just better. So, I put Quincy Craig on my ballot. I put him 3rd, but I did not have him 1 or 2, but yet he won the award. Now, with that being said, I could have easily been like, well, look at Quincy Craig's clutch touchdowns. Of course, I'm going to put him on, but I try to be fair. But yeah, it is. I mean, you definitely think about like the team that you cover whenever you see them. And I mean, Arizona, you had an opportunity to rank them 11. I think you did, right?
I did. I did.
Okay.
Yep.
So what's your thought process?
Yes. Okay. So I definitely know Arizona better than any other team because when we watch Arizona, we watch very closely, right? Like I am not paying attention on the same level to other teams. I try to follow as much as I possibly can. It's just not the same. So you sort of have more information. And I try to take this out of my mind. This like, do they look like a top 25 team? Because I don't do my rankings that way. I base it on resumes, right? Like I am not just going, oh, I think this team's better than this team. And I think this team's better than that team. No, I try to base it all on data, results, etc. I am not any more or less likely to vote for Arizona because I cover Arizona. But I might err on the side of ranking a Big 12 team over an East Coast team because I sort of feel like if I don't, then who will?
Yeah.
Right. There are more voters on the East Coast. They tend to favor those teams. Sometimes they go to sleep before the games are over. So I had a choice. This last poll, I was like, okay, Houston is in. They've got an 8-2 record, which is one game better than ASU and Arizona, and they beat both teams, right? So Houston, they're going in. I had 2 slots open. It was either going to be the combo package of the Territorial Cup rivals, or it was going to be Wake Forest and SMU. We're also 7-3, both of them. Wake beat SMU 13-12, so I felt like, okay, Wake should probably be ahead of SMU, even though SMU's overall resume is a little better. So I had to stack up like all 4 of those resumes and try to figure out which one I like the best. I decided to go with the Big 12. There's no right answer to this, right? Like it's totally subjective. Whose resume is better? I mean, you know, there's strength of record and strength of schedule. I don't have updated versions of that when I put my ballot in late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. That stuff isn't updated on ESPN's site until Sunday morning, and we have to get that thing in pretty early. Yeah. So I decided at the time that Arizona State had the best win of anybody because they beat Texas Tech.
Yeah.
They had good losses, quote unquote. Losing on the road to Mississippi State. There's really no shame in that. They beat Iowa State. Arizona lost to Iowa State. So I stacked Arizona State ahead of Arizona, and I put both of them slightly ahead of the ACC teams. So that's how I did it this particular week. And I try as best I can to just take all biases out of the process and just look at, like I said, data, results, metrics, et cetera, and base those decisions on their resumes more than anything else.
But man, these early games, does that help Arizona in the AP top 25? Because now the voters are awake in the Eastern time zone, right?
It should, right? I don't know if they've discovered this just channel called TNT. Right. All right, I got. Which I mean, it's new, but they do a great job over there. They had cameras on us today while we were asking questions. That was kind of weird.
It was weird having a documentary crew right there. I was like, who are these guys?
I might have worn a different outfit if I had known that, right? Okay, one more from Dan Heinfeld, who has emailed us before. His question for the mailbag is Tucson and the Arizona fan base ready to support the team? And he bold-faced team and italicized it. They should, but will they show up on Saturday? Is there an over-under on attendance this Saturday? That's a, quote, turn the corner moment. What do you think?
So I think that Arizona fans will show out more than they did the last couple of home games. Like I do think there will be more people in the stands than, say, their homecoming crowd. But then again, that was homecoming, right? There's a lot of people coming in from out of town that are there for that weekend, that game. So the crowd will be very interesting. And then plus there's also El Tour de Tucson on Saturday. So folks out there, be cautious, make sure you get to the stadium early because, there's going to be road closures and all sorts of obstacles around the downtown U of A area because of El Tour de Tucson. I hope El Tour de Tucson is not an excuse, but man, I'm looking at the weather on Saturday, 11. Like we've always heard, games are too late. Now that they're early, games are too hot. Listen, if you just simply can't afford to go to games, I completely understand that. But like to sit there and like blame the weather, well, the high is 70 degrees on Saturday. And the team right now is 7-3, and they have won 3 straight games. And this is your last chance to see this game or see this team perform at Casino del Sol Stadium. And it's the first game as Casino del Sol Stadium. So, like, why not come be a part of a historic day for Arizona football? So I think there will be a lot of people there. I'll put the over under as actual butts in seats, not announced attendance. I think actual butts in seats. Maybe we're talking about 38,000, 36,000. And then announced attendance will be somewhere in like the 42 to 45 range.
Yeah, I would say if you're talking about like an over-under that suggests that a corner has been turned, I'd say the announced attendance being 45,000 or greater. Because it's been in the low 40s as far as announced attendance. Butts in seats, would love to see that number get up around 40. People have kind of pushed back a little bit at those of us in the media who have complained about this issue. And I understand, look, times are tough for a lot of people. There are any number of legitimate reasons to not go. But just speaking as a college football advocate and chronicler, it's just a better experience for everybody if it's like an awesome atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right? It just is. Like that atmosphere at Texas Tech for the BYU game was like unbelievable. And there was just no way the Red Raiders were going to lose that game. Right? I felt really strongly about BYU against TCU this past week because I knew the crowd would show up in Provo for a night game. And they sure did.
Yep.
They were a big factor. It was pretty much a blowout. Brent Brennan has been very kind in the way he has complimented the fans in the Zona Zoo. We can't really hear in the box what it sounds like. It hasn't looked good. Like the visual that we've had of the upper deck, the corners, it's been kind of sparse. I would like to think with a cooler day, even though it's a weird time for the game to be starting, that like the sun, the hot, like being too hot will not be a factor. And like you said, last time to see this team. Hey, who knows? Maybe Noah Fafita will decide he wants to enter the NFL draft after this year. He could. This could be the last time you ever get to see Noah Fafita.
Yeah.
The all-time leader. I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to come back, and I think he's going to end his career with like 105 touchdown passes in an Arizona uniform. But yeah, and also, hey, you know what? They're 7-3. Like, if you win, they will come in theory. Let's see if that theory turns into reality on Saturday.
And they're 5-1 at home. So like you go to the Arizona Stadium, hey, there's a good chance you get to see the Wildcats win.
Casino del Sol Stadium, Justin.
Oh, sorry. Casino del Sol Stadium.
Get that right.
It's gonna be a little while, man. It's gonna be really hard to get used to it. But all right, new era for Arizona football. By the way, I had a bunch of mailbag questions, but we answered it on Spears and Ali. So go check out the Spears and Ali podcast, Monday's episode. We answered all of those questions. We talked about Arizona football. Noah Fafita was brought up. Somebody asked, will Noah Fafita enter the transfer portal this year because it's his last year? And I'm like, I would be stunned if Noah Fafita is not playing for Arizona. Like if he were not playing for Arizona next year, I would imagine it's playing for the NFL, playing in the NFL, not playing for another college football team.
I mean, oh my gosh, I guess maybe the only possibility would be if Seth Dagey went somewhere else and wanted Noah to join him wherever that is. But even still, I'd be hard pressed. It's almost unimaginable to see Noah Fafita in another college football uniform because he is, I don't know, man. He's like Mr. Arizona at this point. And
they said that about
they're gonna build a statue for him and T-Mac
Yeah.
If he comes back next year, throws another 30 touchdown passes, like I said, ends up with 100 plus, maybe goes to a third bowl game in 4 years. That, talk about leaving a legacy. He will have done it.
As long as Nico Harrison is not running Arizona football, it isn't trading away the face of the franchise. I think Noah Fafita is going to be just fine. Yeah, because you were like, I'd be shocked if I see Noah Fafita in another college uniform. I'm like, that's what Mavericks fans said about Luka and Micah Parsons too. All right, man. Good stuff there on the Wildcast podcast. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, all podcasting platforms. Do your thing and subscribe, rate, and comment today. Also, check us out on Tucson.com and download the Wildcaster mobile app for all your Arizona football coverage. We'll be back later on in the week to preview Arizona versus Baylor, home finale, last home game of the season for the Wildcats. Last football game at Arizona Stadium until the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. And, man, what a time it's going to be later on in the week, because we're going to be talking about – we talk about Noah Fafita's legacy. How about Traydon Stukes, who went through COVID, NIL, all of that, never left. 6-year senior playing for the University of Arizona. Like, I mean, Dalton Johnson, it could be the last of a dying breed for the Arizona Wildcats. So
and Big 12 Bonanza.
Big 12 Bonanza with our guy, Jordy Ham.
Yep.
All right, check us out, Apple, Spotify, Tucson.com. We'll see you guys later on in the week.